Hello, my beautiful soul. Welcome to Spiritual Bloom, where we bloom within our consciousness, with your spiritual guide and twin flame coach Neha. In today's episode, we will be discussing the other part, that is, the shadow side of being the divine masculine. So, if you've spent any time thinking about the modern spirituality or twin flame space, I'm sure you must have heard the term divine masculine. Usually it's painted in broad glowing strokes. You picture a man probably who is deeply centered, emotionally mature, fiercely protective, spiritually awakened, and the ultimate balanced partner. He is the anchor in the storm. He is the hero of the healing journey. And there is profound truth in the aspiration towards emotional balance, strength, and presence. But we need to talk about what happens when that label becomes a costume. Today we are diving deep into the shadow side of being the divine masculine. We are looking at how a spiritual archetype meant to set people free has actually become a brand new cage. A cage built on toxic emotional suppression, spiritual bypassing, and an unbearable pressure to be flawless. Let's start with the root problem: the suppression of humanity. In many spiritual spaces, the divine masculine is often defined purely by his ability to remain detached. He is the one who doesn't react. He is the one who stays logical while everyone else is riding an emotional wave. And slowly, in a very subtle manner, a dangerous message gets internalized. You start questioning yourself that maybe your emotions are a liability. The divine masculines, they think that if they feel too deeply, they start panicking. Think about how heavy that feeling must be, where you are handed a spiritual performance review where the primary requirement is that you aren't allowed to be a human. If a person is angry, it means that that is a low vibration. And a true divine masculine is expected to stay grounded. If someone is confused, it means that someone needs to go within and find clarity. If someone is hurting, it means that they are in their ego. What happens when a man or anyone stepping into this energy is told that their pain, their confusion, and their messy, beautiful vulnerability are spiritual failures? They go numb. They learn to disconnect from their body, lock their feelings behind a fortress of spiritual jargon, and call it mastery. That isn't mastery. That's disassociation wrapped in sage smoke. Now let's flip the coin. And let's talk about how the label of the divine masculine gets weaponized. Because the shadow of this archetype doesn't just hurt the person trying to embody it, it profoundly impacts the people in their lives, particularly their partners, their counterparts. Now, have you ever dealt with someone who uses spiritual concepts to avoid taking actual human accountability? Terms like "I'm just processing in my own time," or "this is just the runner phase, you need to surrender," or "my energy is elsewhere right now." Underneath this banner of being the divine masculine, a lot of people use this identity as a VIP pass to avoid difficult conversations, emotional labor, and basic communication. It becomes the ultimate form of spiritual bypassing. So instead of saying that I am terrified of intimacy, I don't know how to love you right, and I'm running away, they wrap it in a spiritual narrative. They convince themselves and try to convince everyone else that their emotional unavailability is actually a higher state of consciousness. And many people, they do that when they come to know about this journey, and they want to misuse the term or misuse the path of being a divine feminine or a divine masculine. And this is totally avoidance dressed up as an ascension, because that person does not want to accept the darker side. True strength isn't about pulling away because connection gets uncomfortable. True strength is staying in the fire, working for it, even when your nervous system is screaming at you to flee. Now, there is another heavy cost to this archetype, and it's one we rarely talk about, that is loneliness. When you are placed on a pedestal, or when you put yourself on a pedestal as the unshakable pillar of strength, you rob yourself of the most healing human experience available: being caught when you fall. If everyone around you expects you to be the healer, the guide, the protector, and the unshakable rock, where do you go when you crumble? Who holds the space for the space holder? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Most people trapped in the shadow of the divine masculine or divine feminine end up suffering in absolute silence. They carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, especially the divine masculine, pretending everything is aligned, while inside they are exhausted, anxious, and starving for a space to land where they don't have to be strong anymore. So they confuse perfection with presence. The moment you claim you have nothing left to learn is the exact moment your spiritual growth stops dead in its tracks. So how do we reclaim the real masculinity? The real divine masculinity? How do we break out of this? How do we strip away the toxic expectations of the label and return to something else which the universe and divine really wanted? It starts by redefining what actual grounded masculine energy looks like. Real strength includes tears. It includes grief, confusion, and breaking down. Real leadership includes accountability. It means owning your mistakes instead of blaming them on divine timing or energetic misalignment. Real presence means staying in the room. It means choosing messy, authentic human connection over safe and distant isolation. So, if this has been a type where you have come across such divine masculines, it is not just tough for the divine feminine, it is extremely tough for the divine masculines also to go through this phase, because the internet has finally shown them what the divine masculine or divine feminine is all about. But they have never went into the depth of what is the price they have to pay to earn this title. They don't know what price they have to pay in order to face their own shadow side, the dark side. So if this episode has resonated with you, do like, share, subscribe and comment. For any kind of personal guidance, you can WhatsApp or email me. My contact details have been given in the description box. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you again in another episode.